What's up, people? One Nut Punch here. So Last Epoch hit 1.0, getting out of early access and being full released. I'm going to be giving my first impressions about the game, some base mechanics as well as some advancements, talking about the main classes, subclasses, the story a little bit, some of the mechanics that they decided to add in 1.0 and early access throughout, and some other stuff. But main thing is that I don't want to talk about the game in a bad light like people have been doing in the reviews for Steam, talking about how the networking is really terrible, they're still having issues with rubber banding, not being able to connect to the game, having transition periods where it's 30 seconds to a minute, or not being able to get into their character because of the queue timer. I'm not going to talk about all of that crap until later on during the video. What I'm going to talk about is the main concept of the game and how it plays during offline mode. Now, I will say this, there was issue during access, or early access, and that it's not so much now. There are more fleshed out things, but they also added some newer things from the early access into 1.0, like new cutscenes, a couple other new things when it comes down to the campaign, and some new additions as well. Getting into the game, what I'm showing you here is the Warlock. These are two, or rather one of two, subclasses that was released. They added the Warlock for the Acolyte, and they added the Falconer for the Ranger. When it comes down to investing time, I didn't put that much into playing the Falconer or the Ranger class, but the Warlock, however, I did put a bunch of time into. I was able to get the Chaos Bolt, the Ghost Flame, and the Soul Feast, as well as Sonic Fissure, which I'm not going to pronounce because it has CH and TH after that, but it's basically a fissure on the ground that will open up and will shoot souls or energy at whatever is around it, and if they're on top of the fissure, they'll also take overtime damage. That being said, getting back into Ghost Flame, the reason why I would have it as a specialization skill is because you burn through mana really quickly, and there is a passive that would allow for mana consumption when using the skill, as you see there, and I think it goes up to like 70% as the max level, and it's very useful to allow you to do duration-timed attacks using Ghost Flame, doing necrotic and fire damage, on top of using the Chaos Bolts, Soul Feast, so that would allow for, if your target is cursed, you're allowed to do more damage. The Warlock goes off of curses, bleeding, and poison damage. And right now, with my curse build, using the Fissure as a curse, using the, I think it's Curse Blood, that allows me to hit a very high or wide area that does also a curse, and then using Soul Feast to suck out the life or insta-kill enemies that are low-level health, and then being able to get them as mana. There's different ways you can go about using the Warlock, but it's mainly using overtime effects, and if you're going for instant kills or trying to kill in wide area or a bunch of waves, then it'd be using the Fissure and using the wider areas that go for AoE. Not saying that all the skills will be AoE, because for example, when they did, I think it was called Spirit Plague, it's a single target, but you could turn it into a wider area. Let's go back to the main menu and talk about the 5 main classes that you play in the game, and they have their own different types of subclasses, 3 of each per character. Starting from left to right, you have the Sentinel. They have the Void Knight, Forge Guard, and Paladin. Void Knight is what I've been playing a lot of, and Forge Guard is very fun, using minions and swords after every kill that go off 20 or 25% whenever you kill a bunch of enemies. And going on to the next character, you have the Ranger, which has Blade Master, Marksman, and Falconer. Their own different types of subclasses there. That could be a different range of weapons and arsenals you could choose from. Not really something I mess with. The Mage has Sorcerer, Spellblade, and Rune Master. Rune Master is very fun because it has different spells you can morph together, 3 in total, that will do different things. And then you have the Primalist, which I never really messed with very much, the Beastmaster, Shaman, and Druid, and those are the 3 subclasses for that character. Again, not really mess with it too much, but assuming that he does a lot of nature powers, having summons such as his bear, and some other creatures that will come help him out. Last but not least, they have the Acolyte, and that is Necromancer, Lich, and Warlock. Warlock being the new subclass as well as the Falconer for the Acolyte. And I'm having a lot of fun playing the Warlock. Again, a really nice subclass to play. I'll talk more about the classes later, but here's a cutscene people should check out.
In the beginning, there was darkness. Only terror myself, and the void. I was content with nothing. She dreamt of light, of life, of humanity. We disagreed, and yet, in her world, there were gods. Mujasa of the desert, Largon of the sea, Rye of the endless skies, and Hierot of the frozen tundra. But fate stole Ekera away. Without her, there was conflict, then wars. In the end, it was Rye who sought to outshine the sun that would pull the world into his flame. Caught within Rye's gaze were the Keepers, an order sworn to protect Ekera's memory and the power it still holds. They were joined by someone unexpected, a traveler, willing to walk into the flames of war. But why? Was it honor they sought? Power? Redemption? Or was this fate? Perhaps. But no story is quite that simple.
When you arrived, was there a family? It was my mistake. They were cornered, and there were so many. I can handle Osprix. I told them to stay back, to let me handle it. And they left. Thanks. Are you also here for the peace talks? Good, because so am I. Name's Grail. Since we're both headed the same direction, why don't we go together? I wonder, which of us will take down more Osprix? Come, let me watch you fight.
Now, the main reason why I decided to have people listen to Grail talk after the cutscene is because the voiceover work is very well done. I do like Grail when he talks. I do like some of the other things that they do with Gaspar telling you about the end of the world and the different timelines and so on, the different shades that have different powers. Then you have other like weird characters like the Majasa and Majelka. You have the Knight in the End of Times that kind of gets sarcastic with you. It's very nice to listen to, and the story has always been kind of weird when it comes down to people playing Last Epoch. It is about time, and it is about you trying to save it, or rather, save people that are at the end of time from this creature or god that's trying to kill them all. Getting into the actual game itself, like the combat, it's like ARPGs I've played before, such as Path of Exile, Diablo 4, Grim Dawn, or, whichever there is an ARPG. The only thing that's different, or that I would say is better than Path of Exile and the other games, is the whole crafting and skill tree system. And as you're seeing here, the crafting system goes up what you have called shards. And shards are picked up that are orange. Some of them will be rare, some of them will be just normal commons. And you can change the different affixes on your weapon. For example, if you wanted 5 health on a hit, you could do that. If you wanted 16 mana on kill, you could do that. If you wanted life leech, you could do that. It just depends upon what shards you have in order to craft into the weapon. You could do it on swords, you could do it on armor, you could do it on different things. You also have another slotted area called the idols, and these are additional passives on your character. Not on your armor, but just in general. So if you take your armor off, that will still be active, whether it be minion resistance, or it could be lightning damage, it could be anything really. And then when you get to more of the combat, you have the different characters and subclasses that you play in different types of playstyles. Like I said earlier, when it came down to the Warlock, it has curses, and it has also bleeding and poison damage. That will be over time, and sometimes you can also be one-shot by things without even knowing it. I've been melted many times in hardcore mode by a slam, by being blown up by a fireball, being knocked over a cliff. It could be many different things, but it really just depends upon what your playstyle is and how the build is. For example, for my build, it's a lot of glass cannon builds that hit very hard, but if I also get hit, I die immediately. Case in point, as you see here, the Rune Master. I don't have a lot of resistance for him, but when he does use his skills or active abilities, he crushes a lot of the enemies. And as you've seen there with the Triforce of different spells, that is what he does. Essentially, he will take 3 different types of spells in multiple different orders and then use another brand new spell by morphing them all together at once. You could also do 2 spells or just 1 spell for a different effect, and they could be fireballs that rain from the sky, there could be ice rain, it could be a shield or ward that will protect you while recharging constantly. It really depends upon what type of order you're trying to go for. For example, the one order I remember is Ice, Fire, Ice, which creates a barrier around me, and I don't take damage for a limited time. Then you also have the opposite effect, which is Fire, Frost, Fire, that will do an area effect of burning, and it will burn anybody that goes near me. And that's why I like the Rune Master so much. And when you put Runic Invocation in a specialization, there is more stuff to do with it, and that's what the spell is to allow the 3 types of morphing on the Rune Master. Again, it's a different story entirely when you're playing a different class for the mage. You can't choose Runic Invocation of the Rune Master and be able to put it on a sorcerer, because a sorcerer has its own type of abilities. For example, there's Meteor, there's Black Hole, there's Ice Barrage, and there's a couple other ones I don't really remember. I don't have it fully unlocked. But the skill tree I wanted to show off here is the main thing I like about the game. You have different specializations that you could put into the type of skill tree and add upon that specific skill. So if you want Fireball to fire 3 at once, you want it to go from fire to lightning, or if you want Disintegration to have shock or something else, you could do that in a small skill tree. That's what they call specialization. And oh boy, there's quite a bit of stuff to do here. I mean, for example, when it comes down to Disintegration, you're able to take less damage while channeling. You're able to turn it from a normal lightning and fire attack to just straight up fire that does piercing. You could also do longer casting time. There's various different things you could choose upon the skill tree. Now, it's not a giant skill tree, like if you were to say, look at Path of Exile, that's basically the size of an entire galaxy, a star system. It's a very straightforward and more approachable means of a skill tree. And I mean, to a normal person that doesn't understand ARPG, they're going to look at this and be like, okay, I'm not overwhelmed. There's some stuff here to go ahead and try, and if I want to learn how to actually use the skill properly or effectively, I'll just read about the description and then build off as I go. It's not a game to where you need to go onto an online website that does builds, make a build off of somebody else, and then play it to have fun. Though I'm not saying that going off of other people's builds is a bad thing. I'm just saying that if you want to go off your own build by trial and error, absolutely do that. And it's a lot easier in Epoch because you're not overwhelmed with a bunch of different skills and sets to go ahead and mess with. The other thing I wanted to show off was the different stash houses or stashes inside your inventory. If you want to get more, you spend 1,000 gold, then 2,000, then 4,000. It doubles every time, and you'll have different types of tiers. You'll have the idols that are light blue. You'll have experimental items that you'll get from killing the exiled mage. You'll have, I think it's purple, but I don't know what they're called. You'll have the exotics and legendaries, and then you have the rares and the blues and the commons. And those are just the tier system that you have to deal with when it comes down to finding items. And a lot of items aren't really, like, huge, unless they have a value of maybe 100 plus, because I would take items of 100 plus gold, put it all into the inventory, and then sell it all to make a bunch of money after that. So I've never really needed to go get gold because I'm already doing monolith runs, which is a level 58 area to where you kill a boss or do an objective, as well as a bonus objective to get a bunch of gear after the end of the run. You don't necessarily have to clear the entire level, but if you do the priority as well as the side, then you'll get more bonus for rewards that way. And I'm playing my Void Knight here. My Void Knight, like I said before with a lot of my builds or glass cannon builds, he's kind of sturdy, but when he gets hit, you could definitely tell that the health goes down really fast. However, he's very strong. He has a lot of the void skill sets that you would need for being able to do area effect and, of course, burn damage. So I'm doing void, I'm doing burn, and I think I'm also doing something else, but I can't remember if it's just those two. But as you see my health, I immediately die because I am a glass cannon build. If I wanted something to be more sturdy, I'd go elemental resistance, I'd go physical resistance, and maybe whatever else that's hurting me a bunch. For example, frost damage, bleeding, or poison. The different elementals ruin me because I don't look at something and think, oh, well, this is 50% poison resistance. I'll put this on, and I go into a poison area and then die immediately. Or I get poisoned, I go into a frost area, and I just, I'm see you later. But that's an issue for my playstyle and nobody else's, so I'm not really worried about it all that much. Getting into something new, though, is that they added factions into the game. There's 2 new ones, Circle of Fortune and the Merchants Guild. When you go here, you have to go to the Majelka, which is a city, and it's the Upper District. When you go up there, they give you 2 choices to choose from, and that is the Bazaar or Merchants Guild and the Circle of Fortune. There's 2 different things that they do. The Merchants Guild has a bunch of people that will sell different parts of armor, helmet, gloves, boots, weapon, whatever. And the Circle of Fortune says something about getting items or rare drops from killing mobs and bosses. And I haven't done that yet. I haven't really messed around with the Circle of Fortune. However, when you get to the Merchants Guild, you talk to a couple of people, and they tell you about what to do, how it kind of works out, and then move on after that. When you do the quest, you'll be able to get faction points and gold to be able to buy the items that you want from the different person. That being said, I can't really tell you exactly what it does or how it would work out because I haven't really done much with it other than being able to talk to this person, see what they say, and have a list of whatever they're showing of the amount so I can go buy it later on. In closing before the end of the video, is there a bunch of stuff to do in Last Epoch? Absolutely. Is it a very fun game for $35? I absolutely recommend it. Is it something that people should buy online? No. The main reason why I say online is terrible right now is because of rubber banding issues, the networking problems, and some of these other issues that should have been flushed out during early access, which is a mess up on the developer's part. Won't blame them entirely because a lot of people were hyped up for this, and they did sell a bunch of copies in early access, which was about 150,000, and now that's in full release. That being said, they are fixing and trying to patch out the problems with online. Will they make it smooth? Probably. Will it become, great in like maybe a week or so? Probably not. It might be a couple weeks. It might be a month. Nobody knows for sure. But I still give hope that they will fix it and make it a little bit better. If you want to pick up a new game that has offline and online mode, that has very fun mechanics, has a skill tree that's not out of this world crazy bonkers big, has great voiceover, has a cool story, and has some fun stuff and content to progress, I would highly recommend people checking out Last Epoch. Like I said, I bought it in early access for $35, and I've been playing it ever since then, even past full release. And I still love it, still been playing online mode, whether it be hardcore or normal. And people that ask me, well, what's the difference? The difference is that I'm playing offline where it's smooth, I have no issues with rubber banding, and it's just fun all around, and I don't have to deal with dumbass chat, which is always an obnoxious thing to deal with in any game, regardless of being an MMO, ARPG, or even a first-person shooter. That being said, if you're looking for something different, like a different ARPG that has offline, online capabilities, has a decently sized skill tree for all the active skills you use, having 5 main classes from the Sentinel, the Ranger, the Mage, the Primalist, and the Acolyte, all with having their own 3 subclasses in between them, from the Warlock on the Acolyte to the Sorcerer on the Mage, and being a Forge Guard on the Sentinel, is definitely something people should go ahead and check out on Steam for $35. They might have a sale later on, but it's definitely a game that I always go back to and play. That being said, I've been one nut punched, and this has been the Last Epoch video. There are some other things I'm working on, but this was something I wanted to talk about, mainly because people kept review bombing the shit out of Last Epoch due to the online issues. It's not that bad. They are fixing it, and they do have people giving them feedback on Discord and some other portions of social media. So like I said, thanks for watching the video. Go check out Last Epoch, and I'll see you later in the next one.